أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين آمين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Inshallah everyone is doing well. Today we will be continuing our studies for the last, I think, over 2 months now on the ninth word, which is on verses 17 and 18 of chapter Rum, which goes, in the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate. So glorify God when you reach evening and when you rise in the morning, for all praise is His in the heavens and on earth, and towards the end of the day, and when you have reached noon. So essentially, these studies that we've been having is on the wisdom. We've been discussing the wisdom in the specified times of prayer of the day, and further expanding upon what it means to partake in prayer or what it means to pray. So we've gone through what the author connotes as points. We went through 4 points up to this point, which I'll quickly summarize, and then we can delve into the continuation of the 5th point in relation to this verse. So we've been discussing how, the seeds of prayer is the seeds of prayer is glorification, praise, and thanks, and how the meanings in these are present in all aspects, in all parts of prayer, and how this relates to man, and as far as him establishing the foundations of his relationship with his creator. We've also been discussing how worship and prayer is a recognition of one's infinite needs, and how, again, this relates to the rest of the universe as I come to seek that which I need from my creator. We've also discussed how prayer is an index of all worship, and the human being, in a similar fashion, the human being is an index of all the qualities in the universe, and how there's a parallel between, the epochs of the universe, the time of the day, and the seasons with man's life, with the different stages of man's life, all calling to mind how everything in existence is always in motion, always changing, never stagnant or static, even within an orderliness. And from there, we've come to the 5th point, which we've been discussing for only the last few weeks, and where the author has taken us through the different times of prayer once again, how different aspects, how it relates to different aspects of the human being. So we've discussed how the early morning prayer, or Fajr, is basically, or it represents the preparation of man for his upcoming duties, and is a time for presenting a petition to one's creator through prayer and supplication. Then the Dhuhr, or midday or noon prayer, is a time that looks to the peak of the achievements of one's labors of the day, and how it is, again, a moment to pause, to shake off heedlessness, or heedlessness from the spirit, by praising and giving thanks for the bounties that one has been given. The Asr or afternoon prayer, we discussed how it is a time that calls to mind old age, and it is a reminder for man that he is a guest in the guest house of the universe, and while he is pained at separation, he desires eternity, and that through prayer he has the opportunity to pay back his debt by offering supplication and taking refuge in the unending mercy, compassion, grace of his creator. So it is a moment of finding consolation of the heart and ease of the spirit, which leads us to the sunset or Maghrib prayer, where we talked about how this calls to mind death and the inevitability of separation and the need for for an unending and undying one. Again, a time to proclaim and seek, or to worship and seek help from the necessarily absolute sovereign, and at the same time testify to the messengership of the messenger, who is the interpreter of the signs of the verses of the book of the universe, or in other words, the bearer of good news for that which my humanity is in need of. So basically, up to this point, if I were to summarize, each time each time in prayer gives me an opportunity to pause, to reflect, to shake anything off of my mind and my spirit that may cloud my vision of reality, and allows me the opportunity to reconnect with my creator and to express my conclusions and my needs and my reality in the act of worship. So that brings us to Isha, or the nightfall prayer, and how last week we were talking about this calls to mind, or it reminds one of one's unending weakness insofar as my needs, again, extend to eternity, and it can be I can feel like I am,
Lisa?
I am stuck, or I am drowning in infinite darkness, both my future and my past, until I recognize that this neediness and this weakness is a call to rise to the presence of my infinitely merciful creator, who addresses my needs, and need to be guided and need to be rescued from the transience and infinite separation
Sorry,
that we
Lisa?
experience in the universe.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. We can't see the text anymore.
Thank you for pointing that out. Inshallah, we can continue reading from, he starts with Surah al-Fatiha. If there are any volunteers just to simply read, and so we can have a change of voice as well, that would be greatly appreciated. If we can just read the first paragraph for now. You can just unmute yourself or raise your hand. I would be much obliged, but no pressure. And if not, I can surely read it myself as well. Okay, Bismillah. He starts with the Surah al-Fatiha. That is, instead of praising and being obliged to defective, wanting creatures for which they are not suited, he extols and offers praise to the sustainer of all the worlds, who is absolutely perfect and utterly self-sufficient and most compassionate and all generous. He then progresses to address, you alone do we worship. That is, despite his smallness, insignificance, and aloneness, through man's connection with the owner of the day of judgment, who is the sovereign of pre-eternity and post-eternity, he attains to a rank whereat he is an indulged guest in the universe and an important official. Through declaring, you alone do we worship, and from you alone do we seek help, he presents to him, in the name of all creatures, the worship and calls for assistance of the mighty congregation and huge community of the universe. Then, through saying, guide us to the straight path, he asks to be guided to the straight path, which leads to eternal happiness and is the luminous way. So I can begin with some of my takeaways from this sentence, and just to put it within context, again, we were discussing the different times of prayer, expanding on the meaning of worship, and in particular right now we are on Isha, the nighttime or the nightfall prayer. So what kind of stood out to me, or what attracted my attention here, is how, with the emphasis on Surah al-Fatiha, it calls to my attention my own nature as well as what my humanity necessitates, by where it says, instead of praising and being obliged to defective and wanting creatures for which they are not suited, he extols and offers praises to the sustainer of all the worlds. So perhaps, I was thinking it cannot be emphasized enough, the relationship between me recognizing my own reality in that that I am infinitely existentially needy and poor, and with the fact that I am in need of one who is absolutely self-sufficient, self-sustaining, one who is perfect with no lacking, one who is powerful and all compassionate. So there is definitely this relationship that stood out to me, as emphasized, in all parts of the text that we've been reading up to this point as well. This relationship between my recognition of my own neediness, um, with the reality of what I am in need of. Once I recognize the need, I can try to say, okay, who is it that can meet these needs, that it has the capacity, um, that must necessarily, who is it that has given me these needs. um, and here, you know I also found it very interesting how the author takes us through Surah al-Fatiha in a way, through different aspects of it, um, as it relates to the need of my humanity. So, for example, um, my own awareness and recognition of my state looks to the one who desires the completion of that lacking for me. So, in other words, my state of neediness and my need for existence, for happiness, for health, looks to the one who desires unending existence, happiness, health, and so forth for me. So it is not a matter of falling into hopelessness, for example, or lamenting at one situation, or unending needs, so long as I am able to see the promise of fulfillment, within my needs, within my infinite needs, within my state of being. And how here, in particular, Surah al-Fatiha, which we recite, or is recited in every prayer and every rakah or cycle or unit of prayer, in particular is or in particular here during the time of Isha, is again another opportunity for me to pay heed to what is going on within me, outside of me, and take refuge in the one who must necessarily be the one who gave me the need and can fulfill it. And so um, the one the one who gave these needs to me, and only the one who is the owner of the day of judgment, or the one who gives me existence now and can fulfill my desire for unending existence and happiness alone, can address my needs. And nothing short of an absolute being, whose dominion includes the entirety of creation, is sufficient for my humanity, or can meet these needs. Um, so as I was raising this relationship between one's needs, how they are given as well. I don't choose this, and how this looks to the one that must necessarily give me these needs, but also must be the one who wants these for me and is capable of fulfilling these needs, um, so long as I am able to um, conclude uh, his absoluteness within my experiences of the universe. So prayer is an opportunity for me to take a pause and reflect and address my own humanity, um, as well. And maybe, at any time, please feel free to raise your hand to share any sort of thoughts, reflections, questions, feelings. Um, because, as we're reading this, where the aim is to read it in a way where I'm addressing something that ails me, something that requires my attention, that if I do not address it, then I cannot sleep comfortably at night. So that I do not externalize what I'm reading from myself, so that it addresses something within me. Um, One other thing that I'd like to also emphasize here is how it talks about the straight path. So the straight path is one that leads to what I desire most, eternal happiness. The path of lightness in spirit, and meaning, in dispelling, in the dispelling of darkness. So, and this state of seeking the straight path, as the text says, is one where I recognize my own need, as well as the needs of all those around me. As it says, you alone do we worship. So there's a we there. There's a sense of awareness of everything, within the universe, not just not just myself. So from other human beings who are also in need of existence, of compassion, of love, of being sustained, to animals, to what we consider inanimate beings, everything is in need. So I ask myself, how much of an ease of heart can I have, or can I experience, if, for example, I were guaranteed eternal life or eternal happiness, while knowing others would not be taken care of? And even this question kind of contradicts itself, because um, I couldn't call it eternal happiness if only I was taken care of, if it only included me. My own happiness includes the happiness and the well-being and um, the sustainment of all others, of everything within the universe. So just as my needs extend to infinity, so do my abilities to find my state in a relationship with everything else within the universe. And so just as I would want to securely know that, for example, my cat who's meowing, perhaps you can hear her, or my mother or my niece, just as I'd want them to be taken care of, it would pain me to know that, maybe the bird or the tree outside my window will perish, will sink into the quicksand of meaninglessness, um, or will not be accounted for or taken care of, because my humanity calls for them being taken care of just as I would want myself to be taken care of. So when I look within myself, I see that the desire of eternal happiness within me extends to the entirety of this mighty congregation and huge community of the universe. It extends everywhere. And within my being is also the love of the rest of the humanity, the love of the rest of existence. And so if one thing were to be left out, the pain of that would be infinite, and I would not want anything to be left behind. And in wanting this, I'm not necessarily choosing it. My humanity, my given humanity, calls for this and looks to the will of the one who gave this to me. I see your hand up, Aishanar. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Yeah, I was just thinking that, as you said, this is a surah. These are verses that that are said in every prayer, right? Multiple times. And, with the first sentence, it says, instead of praising and being obliged to other creatures that are also defective like me, creatures that also have these same needs that I have of not wanting to just have a transient existence in this world fundamentally. I, the human being, extol and offer praise instead to, my sustainer, the one who is sustaining me and everything else in the world. And it made me think that, throughout the day, I may be in conditions where I feel like I am obliged to people, where I have to, I don't know, where my needs, as if my needs can only be met either by my boss or my professor or someone that I it could be any person that I have a relation with, my sister, mother, friend, as though whatever I am in need of, they are going to give me that. And I, for myself, I can be in that sort of false conception as well. Like, oh, if my professor likes this paper, then I'll have, everything will be perfect. And that doesn't necessarily state that I have to go through certain steps in order to bring about such a situation, but looking to my fundamental human needs, I guess, the paragraphs that we read before this last week about being in the Abrahamic moment of I love not those that set, right? Of recognizing that none of the people that I may be extolling praise, that none of the people that I may be chasing after throughout the day are ones worthy of worship. And I guess these prayers throughout the day, in which we say these verses, allow us to be conscious of this reality, right? Of the fact that you alone do we worship. Only the one who is absolute in his nature, who is not of this world, who is not of the nature of all the other people that I interact with, who also have like so many immense needs. And so I was just thinking to shortly say it. Sometimes we have to be like a cat, right? I could hear your cat. They ask for food sometimes, and then they eat the food, but they don't go around thanking you. They recognize you're not the source of the food. And so sometimes, we have to go through the steps necessary in this world to, either earn a living or go through a certain education. But nevertheless, we have to recognize that the source that is giving us, that is fulfilling our needs, is not, cannot be any of the people that, apparently seem to be aiding us or whatnot, that they are all being put forth as vehicles in that sense. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Brother Ali, please go ahead.
Thank you. Excellent discussion. I agree with what is already said by you and by Aisha Nur, and they are excellent points. But I wanted to take up from where you left as the moderator, H. Beza. It is an important concept which is introduced here in the text as saying that human beings are guests in the universe and an important official. It is very important. This important official. Are we important officials? Yes, we understand from your presentation, your explanation that we are guests here, needy guests, and we are treated well, but sometimes trained or educated in harsh life living conditions. We understand that and we sympathize it because we need sometimes warnings and reminders, etc. If everything goes smoothly as we expect, that is human nature. Sometimes we should see the limits and sometimes we should experience the hardship. That is our process of education and also making progress in the realization of what is going on in the universe, where I stand, who I am, who is the owner of this universe. But on the other hand, as a guest, it is understandable, very important, understandable, but important official is even more important. What does it mean? As you said, everything is fine with me, let alone my mother, my grandmothers. I know that. My brother, etc., my cousins, siblings, my cat is suffering. Will you be happy? As you said, no. You said it. Uh, your happiness is extended throughout the content of the universe. Or for example, if you know that uh, somebody is going to live until the age of 100, inshallah, with good health, and then you leave this world, but 200 years later, there will be no forest on earth left because of this capricious human beings. Will you be happy? Well, after I die, whatever happens, I don't care. I wouldn't, and I don't think you would, and no one else, no human being. That is why believing people, non-believing people, whatever they are, followers of religion and rejectors of religion, all together are trying to do what? To leave a green earth to the next generation. Why do you bother? Why do you bother? Yes, it is important because I am an important official, official representing the universe, not the boss of the universe. That is very fine and delicate point. Why? Boss means can do everything. King. No, no, no. You are not the king. I'm not the king. Excuse me. Just a minute. I am not the king over the universe. No, king does it according to his own whims. But I know that I shouldn't follow my whims because my whims regards and acknowledges no limit at all. Everything, my whims say everything must be mine, everything under my control. So that's not my, that's why I don't want to be king. But official means appointed person whose mission is to fulfill his duty. What is his duty? What is his duty? Because this official has the capacity to represent the qualities manifested in the universe, he himself, as if there is an official appointed to be the head of the department because he knows everything under his control. He knows who is doing what, doing right, doing wrong. That is why not the authority, this important official means, shouldn't be taken as the authority, but being able to communicate with the rest of the universe and understand them and fulfill their duty before the owner of the universe. For example, the general director of a company, let's say, not the owner of the company, not the CEO of the company, but let's say general director, executive, the director of the execution committee, for example. Now, what is expected of him? All the responsibilities he must take up on his own shoulder and understand what is happening there under his responsibility area. In the case of human being is the universe, but the example in his own company. And then every day he has to go and give a briefing to the CEO. These plans have been fulfilled, or these are going to be done tomorrow or next week. This is our next year project. That is what the important official means here. Why is it mentioned here within this concept? Because when we pray, we say, as it is stated and many times repeated as well, we say every human being, every individual stands in front of the owner of the universe, if you like, the ruler, the commander of the universe. I'm not happy with this commander or king, but the Quran uses it in its metaphorical meaning, not the meaning that I understand, Malik of the universe. It means Maliki Yawmiddin. It means the authority and also respectfulness, and every creature in the universe respects him and obeys him respectfully. Look at the universe. Only human beings may rebel. None of the creatures in the universe rebel his order, but I may. Of course, I may do it within the permitted area. That is the will of the creator. That is a very nice aspect of human nature, free will. I can choose from among the created things within a limited that my creator allowed me to use it. But within this limited area, I have the freedom to reject it, to destroy it, to kill, to be harmful, or otherwise, to be good, always trying to make as well as possible and be helpful to to the creatures and represent their mission as I am, as the chief executor represents what his team, all the other people, has done to the CEO. Says, we have done it. We have fulfilled this project, for example. We are going to start to work on this project next week, for example. He uses we. You know why? It is obvious. He is not going to do it directly, all the works he lists, but all the people who are doing and working under his, if you like, surveillance, are doing it, and he speaks on their behalf. That's why human beings present the worship of the whole universe everything he experienced within this universe, within his own life conditions, and presenting to the Creator, I understood that all the universe around me are really obeying you, acknowledging your authority, and being grateful to you, etc. So am I joining them, and I am aware of their uh, glorification, their uh, praising you, and I am presenting them to you in a human verbal form, speech form. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. That means I have to pray. I have to worship God, not alone. I have to worship God first with my fellow believers. That is fine. All the believing human beings on earth together, we worship you. That is fine. Extended, not only the believers, but all the human nature. In fact, even the human beings may not be aware of it, but their nature is worshiping you. But they may acknowledge it, they may not acknowledge it, that is their choice. But apart from the human beings, all animate kingdom, vegetable kingdom, and the rest of the universe, even the stars and galaxies and atoms and whatever you can imagine, all of them are obeying you. And also, وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينَ, in order to continue our existence, in order to continue our glorification, exaltation, and the praise of you, we need your help. If you don't give us opportunity, if you don't create us, we cannot really fulfill this duty. وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينَ, you alone we seek help or aid, whatever the way you. It means our existence is totally dependent on your will to create us, to give us this opportunity. So this acknowledgement makes me a part of the universe in my worship of God. Acknowledgement of God. I don't say that, oh, there is a creator and I confirm it. No, no, no. Mountains are confirming it. Stars are confirming it in the way they act. That is my deduction from their actions. So I can deduce. I am given the ability to represent their mission, if you like, whatever they are doing. That is why the Quran says, I created Adam, but human beings, each human being as a caliph. It means vicegerent, which means vicegerent means acting on my behalf. What does it mean, acting on his behalf? It means acting in the name of him. It means acknowledging his authority, his ownership, his all sort of attributes manifested in the universe, and presenting him back, saying that you are the greatest one. It means I cannot imagine your what is the word? Majesty, your almightiness. I cannot imagine that, but I acknowledge it. Thank you very much. I think this point was important and wanted to share with you. Thank you.
Jazakallah khair for sharing your thoughts. Um, I'd like to read a question that also came in, which I think was addressed with these last comments as well. Abe says, presenting to him in the name of all creatures looks like a new concept to me. Can this concept mean that as I am in need of him, they are also in need of him? Um, I think to uh, to try to answer your question as best as I understand, I think definitely yes, within my own neediness and impotence, I also recognize all the neediness and weakness and need of the rest of the creation. And as was said, what um, kind of makes man stand out amongst the rest of the creation is this opportunity to rise to the level of an official, as we said. And what does this mean? It means that um, we have the capacity to represent the qualities manifested within the universe. In other words, we in acknowledgement or in acknowledging um, my own reality, my own needs, the needs of everything else within the universe, from other human beings to animals to plants to rocks as well, even seemingly inanimate beings, partaking in that communion or in that um, sense of recognizing my own neediness, and also and thereby acknowledging that only the one, as Aishina was saying before, not building or not worshiping a false um, point of worship, but rather by establishing a sound relationship only with the absolute source of existence, um, can these needs be met, and can I acknowledge that that all of the qualities in the universe must belong to him, and that only he is capable of um, tending to, taking care of, sustaining everything within the universe. So you can think of it as or at least I'd like to think of it as an orchestra in a way, where everything within the universe is already in their own ways of existing, are worshiping, are following the order perfectly, the order of the orderer. They're following the will, and thereby, in their own capacity, they're worshiping perfectly their creator. And by acknowledging this, and by consciously choosing to acknowledge as well, is a part of worship for me as well, um, in recognizing that every act is done in his name, and that I should consciously choose to do that as well. That if not for the absolute source, then nothing, everything would cease to exist. Um, and so, Surah Fatiha becomes a means of expressing my reality, and the seeds of prayer, glorification, praise, and exaltation, and thanks being only to the sustainer of all the worlds, and the worlds being the meaningfulness of the worlds within me, within my feelings, and as well as the physical outer universe, as well to the one who is perfect, or perfectly self-sufficient, compassionate, merciful, despite and in fact because of my neediness and my guest-like state in this universe, that I am called to rise to the state of an official. So, inshallah, we can continue on with the next paragraph as well, and maybe finish up the text as well. So, inshallah, unless there are any comments or questions, I will continue reading. And now, sorry, one moment. And now he thinks of the mightiness of the all-glorious one, of whom, like the sleeping plants and animals, the hidden suns and sober stars are all soldiers, subjugated to his command, and lamps and servants in this guest house of the world, and uttering, God is most great. he bows down. Then he thinks of the great prostration of all creatures. That is, when at the command of be and it is, from chapter 2, verse 117, all the varieties of creatures, each year and each century, even the earth and the universe, each like a well-ordered army or an obedient soldier, is discharged from its duty. That is, when each is sent to the world of the unseen through the prostration of its decease and death with complete orderliness, it declares, God is most great, and bows down in prostration. Like they are raised to life, some in part, and some the same, in the spring at an awakening and life-giving trumpet blast from the command of be and it is, and they rise up and are girded, ready to serve their Lord. Insignificant man too, following them, declares, God is most great. In the presence of the all-merciful one of perfection, the all-compassionate one of beauty, in wonder-struck law and eternity-tinged humility and dignified self-effacement, and bows down in prostration. That is to say, he makes a sort of ascension. For sure you will have understood now how agreeable and fine and pleasant and elevated, how high and pleasurable, how reasonable and appropriate a duty, service, and act of worship, and what a serious matter it is to perform the Isha prayer. And just to finish up the text, thus, since each of these 5 times point to a mighty revolution, is a sign indicating the tremendous dominical activity and a token of the universal divine bounties, it is perfect wisdom that being a debt and an obligation, the prescribed prayers should be specified at those times. Glory be unto you. We have no knowledge save that which you have taught us. Indeed, you are all-knowing, all-wise. O God, grant blessings and peace to the one whom you sent as a teacher to your servants, to instruct them in knowledge of you and worship of you, and to make known the treasures of your name, and to translate the signs of the book of the universe, and as a mirror to its worship of the beauty of your dominicality, and to all his family and companions, and have mercy on us and on all believing men and women. Ameen, through your mercy, O merciful of the merciful. So I know there was a few run-on sentences or long sentences, so we can inshallah try to break it up. But a couple of things that attracted my attention from this text was how everything, by virtue of existing, or by virtue of the way in which it exists and the way that it is given existence, is subject to his command, or is a representation of the will of the creator. And in doing so, they are in an act of worship. You know, unlike, I think man stands out from the rest of the creation in the sense that because of the way I can utilize my free will, if I choose to, I can knowingly harm myself. I can knowingly do something which I know is not good for myself. Whereas I do not see this with the rest of the universe. So in a way, by acting perfectly, everything else within the universe, by acting perfectly in the way that it's being given existence, so the meowing of a cat when it's hungry, or the way sunlight reflects on a drop of water, is an act of worship for that particular thing or being. So in every epic of the universe, or every revolution of the universe, of the seasons of man's life, and both in terms of space and time dimensions, everything follows an order, follows a command, follows a will, and are eventually, as the text says, discharged from duty. So they serve their purpose, and then they are released from the subjugations of the blows of death. And it's interesting because death then becomes a promise or a witness to existence. So death it becomes not scary or not something that I should be afraid of or I should condemn, because it looks to meaningfulness, or it doesn't look to meaninglessness anymore, since everything is serving a purpose and it's not the end, it's rather the beginning or a continuation of a promise, one where I'm experiencing constant creation right now. And so I'm being given existence right now and life right now, whereas it's not necessarily necessary that I should exist at this moment. But at the same time, it's a release or discharge from duty, so a sort of completion of a responsibility or a graduation of sorts from school. Um, so all of this falling under one who's absolute in his power and his mercy. So nothing falls into nothingness. Um, I do see a hand up. Please go ahead.
I didn't want to interrupt you, but we are approaching the end of the time today. So I just wanted to say something, but I was waiting for you. If you like, you can continue. Otherwise, I will just make my points in a few minutes.
Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. So this term really attracted my attention in the paragraph. I think you can find it, or the one who's sharing the screen can find it. Dignified self-effacement. Oh, of course, thank you. That is so standing out for me. What does it mean? It looks like I mean, it's dignified. Oxymoron, they say. Well, I mean, just saying the most beautiful ugliness for like that language. So dignified, okay, what is self-effacement then? This concept is very stranger. It's very foreign to secular civilizations nowadays everywhere in the world. You will be a dignified person. Human dignity is upheld, but at the same time, you will self-efface yourself with I am nothing. That is what the prostration means. Why is it so? It is so strange. How can you prostrate, put your all human dignity, which represents by human face, human head, down and say that I am very dignified. I think all of us guess what it means. Making prostration, I am declaring that I do never ever disdain to put my head down. It means self-effacement, effacing myself, declare that I am nothing, I am in need of you only, which means I cannot say to anything within the universe, I am so dignified to declare that I am not in need of anything of this universe at all. I am so great. I feel so fulfilled. That is what it says. The text says eternity tinged humility. It means I don't need this universe. I need more than this. This universe is nothing for me compared to what I need, eternal happiness. So I only prostrate before the source of existence of this universe. I don't disdain to prostrate before anything of this universe. I am so dignified. So I will be so dignified by worshiping the owner of the universe and not worshipping anything of this universe. That seemingly contradictory thing cannot be understood by anyone whose understanding, whose worldview, their existence view comprises only universe. They cannot go beyond it. So they cannot really worship the source of the existence of the universe. They have to worship either the whole universe, saying that the nature, or some part of the universe, saying that the natural laws. They say we are thankful to the natural laws. Yeah? Are you dignified? No, you are the slaves of a part of this universe. But you are, in fact, the important, very important official in this universe to represent the whole universe, not to worship a part of the universe. Now, time is up. I know that. But at the same time, another very important concept is introduced here, ascension. Just the following sign. That is human ascension. It is my human ascension. Why? I am climbing up to all limits of the universe in my understanding, in my comprehension of the universe, and going beyond the limitations of the created world and ascending to the source of existence of the universe. And presenting my conclusion, what I have concluded after living in this world, experiencing of this universe, what I came up with, God is the greatest. Greatest than the universe. You cannot compare him. He is the absolute one. If this is not ascension, I don't understand what ascension is. Really. This is the ascension. It is introduced to the student, the first student of the Quranic teaching, who is the recipient of the Quran, the messenger of God, and he fulfilled this the first time for us by understanding through the teachings of the Quran that universe is nothing for me as compared to my need of eternal happiness. Nothing can address my need at all. They are all slaves of the principles of the creation, which is the order of the universe. They are just following, they are the slave of the universe laws. I don't need a slave to be my master. I need the master of these slaves so that he can be my master. He can give me what he has given me, the universe. He can give me the eternal happiness also in this same way that he has given me the need for eternal happiness. This is a promise for me. I am created with the need to have eternal happiness, to reach eternal happiness. The Creator is promising me that he is going to give me. Nothing of this universe can give me eternity. If I am left within the limitations of this nature, he just gives me death, if you like. It means no one can help me from death. But only the understanding which opens up beyond the limitations of the universe and reaches the understanding of comprehension of the source of existence of the universe, then I can experience that I am in front of him. That is the prostration represents for us. This is a human ascension. Only the best way of expressing it, defacing ourselves and dignifying our human spirit. That is very important for me. Thank you very much. Inshallah, I didn't really transgress your right more than I had to do. Thank you.
Jazakallah khair. I think that was a very essential point to highlight. Thank you. So, you know, my humanity is in need of an escape from the chains bonding me to the materiality of the universe, if you will, so that I can my value, my happiness as a human being can go beyond the grave. So I'm not subject to meaninglessness in my existence. And here we are offered a solution and a way to refresh ourselves and reconclude at every single prayer, at every single recitation of al-Fatiha, um, acknowledge the absoluteness of one's creator, presenting one's conclusion in love, in wonderstruck love, in humility, in dignified self-effacement. Otherwise, if I do not address my own humanity, then I subjugate myself um, to the universe itself, to materiality and death, and I suffer as a result of it. So it's a process, of course, but it's an opportunity for me to refresh myself, um, inshallah. Um, Jazakallah khair for all of your comments, participation, presence. Inshallah, I think we can end here today. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعوانهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين